So thank you. I have the job of keeping you all awake after lunch, so I hope that I'll be able to do that. Low power wide area, I think most people are familiar with that. Is there anyone that isn't familiar with low power wide area? Good. So at the MWC, somebody came up to me and we were showing some demos for LPWA, and somebody came with a Google search and said, "Is this Ladies Professional Wrestling Association?" Because that's the first item that comes up on Google. So I have actually asked the GSMA if they can sort that out, because it's quite daunting to be leading the LPWA program if it's the Ladies Professional Wrestling Association. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Vodafone are doing regarding low power wide area, how it fits into our current offering, and how we see things evolving. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about not just the technology, but also some of the challenges that we are facing in bringing low power wide area to the market, both as Vodafone and as an industry. A lot of those things have been mentioned in the previous discussions, so things around security, around costs, around devices. And I think it would be very, very good to get your feedback on where you think things need to go and where you think we need to cooperate as an industry, and also the perspective from the potential users of the technology. What is it that they would expect to see, and how we can enable and make sure that we get the technology to the market? Because I think there's a difference between having a technology available and actually getting the technology out there and available to use for the customers. So please feel free to ask any questions during the presentation. So this is the Vodafone Vision. I think I'm losing something's falling off. I might need some help. So this is the Vodafone Vision to connect every machine to transform lives and businesses. So Vodafone is a recognized market leader in machine-to-machine, and we have recently changed the name of the organization from machine-to-machine to Internet of Things. And effectively, this is it's a drive towards sort of moving from machine-to-machine to the Internet of Things, turning devices and objects into intelligent assets, and driving this transformation to lives and businesses. This, again, it's around what are the areas that we're transforming. And we see that although IoT is still in the early stages of growth, it's already impacting a lot of the areas that we see here. So automotive, finance, energy, health, public services, consumer, manufacturing, transport and logistics, consumer, security. But it's still in its early stages. And we see that there is a huge potential to evolve this vision and to really realize the potential of the Internet of Things. We've seen various estimates and various predictions around what that means from an economic impact, and that runs into the trillions of dollars. And the figures range so much that it's sort of very difficult to pinpoint what that figure might be. But we just know that it's lots, and we also see the potential for the actual impact that it can have in different areas. So LPWA, why do we think it's important, and why have we chosen the strategy that we've chosen? So first of all, a few words about what cellular LPWA will give us. We know that LPWA is available today. There are a number of proprietary technologies that we've heard a lot from in the past couple of years. Why is cellular LPWA important? So it's key in unlocking the value of large-scale interconnected devices, and it provides us with the mechanisms to be able to leverage the global cellular ecosystem that's been built over the past 30 years. Effectively, what does it give us? It gives us extended range, so it gives us access to locations that we don't have access to today. It gives us better utilization of battery life, so improved power consumption, which means that we don't need to change batteries, or we don't need to go and power up devices that are located in areas where it's not economically viable to go and recharge them. It gives us scalability, so it gives us the possibility of having thousands of devices in a single cell. It gives us quick time to deploy, and on this one I'll go into that a little bit more later. But what I mean by quick time to deploy is that because we're leveraging the existing networks, it means we don't have to start from scratch. We don't have to start building a network from the ground up. Quality. So we're operating in licensed spectrum, and we have control over what that spectrum is doing. And then security, which I think it's been discussed quite a lot today. And I think, again, that's another very, very key aspect that we just need to keep in mind as we move to a situation where we have these billions of connected devices. So here, a few words on standardization, and many of you will already be familiar with this, but I'll just sort of recap very quickly. As part of 3GPP, there are 3 technologies that are being standardized, and those are ECGPRS, LTE-M, or EMTC, or whatever other names have been given to it over the last few months, and MBIoT. So these 3 technologies, they all address LPWA to differing extents. And the reason that we have a number of technologies are partly political and partly because, effectively, to a certain extent, they're also complementary. So we've got ECGPRS, which is part of a GSM evolution take, if you like. You've got LTE-M and MBIoT, which are more centered around LTE evolution. They also have different performance. So we have differing degrees of low power, wide area, and performance requirements. And with LTE-M, you can see that we can address higher performance rates, but at the same time, we can't reach the same levels of coverage and battery consumption. So effectively, I see them a little bit as complementary technologies that can be used flexibly to address different use cases. And again, it's one of the areas where I believe there's a lot more work to be done, because it's not black and white. And there are a lot of different elements that will contribute to how the technology performs. So up until now, we've seen a lot of statements around battery life, 15-year battery life. It needs to be qualified, and we need to really look at what the use case requires, because 15-year battery life is not going to be possible if you're transmitting constantly. So we need to really look at what the use cases require. So in summary, we've got these 3 different technologies, and All three are on track for standardization within 3GPP R13, which is going to be finalized next month. So here, this is where we see the technology sitting within the context of the Vodafone machine-to-machine portfolio. We have different capability requirements. So we have our high-end applications where we need high-performance LTE, and there I've also added 5G, sort of more aspirational. We've got what we call our current workhorse, which is GSM, 3G, and LTE. And then we've got cellular LPWA. And then at the bottom, we've got the range of short-range devices that are using other technologies. So cellular LPWA, we see it in the context of a complete portfolio of different connectivity types. And we see the flexibility in being able to address different use cases as a fundamental capability that we need in order to be able to serve our customers in the right way to enable IoT applications. So here, we've talked a little bit about the technology, and we've talked a little bit about what Vodafone is planning to do. So we are, just to go back to the strategy, our priority at the moment is NB-IoT, and the program that I'm running is around the global deployment of NB-IoT capability. The reason that we've chosen NB-IoT as a priority is because fundamentally it allows us to address a market that we're not able to address today. So it allows us to address opportunities that we can't address with GSM, we can't address with LTE, and there's a huge demand from our customers and from the market. And we've seen that particularly in the last few months when we've started demonstrating some of these capabilities, that's really created, so there are some obvious use cases. So we've all seen the smart metering. There are some of the obvious use cases, but as we've started to demonstrate and communicate the capabilities of the technology, we've also seen that the demand has grown even more in areas that we couldn't have predicted. And I think recently I was talking to some of you at dinner around some of the extraordinary use cases that have come up, which sort of lead me to believe that actually we haven't even scratched the surface yet, that the demand will come once we actually show what the technology is capable of. So a little bit about what are the enablers. So this is the path that we are set upon, and this is what we see as being sort of what is going to be required, and what is it also going to give us? What is it going to bring? So if we look at the enablers, it's seamless global connectivity. So using the portfolio of connectivity technology, we predict that we can give a very good approximation of seamless global connectivity. What else does NB-IoT bring? It brings us cost-effective devices. So cost-effective devices, it's related to the application. It needs to be related to what it is you're going to use it for. And NB-IoT brings us the ability to address applications that require very low-cost devices. Brings us reliability and security, which means that we could potentially turn everything into something that's connected, into a smart device. And we see that giving us the ability to get a huge amount of data, so a huge amount of information. And it takes the Internet of Things to a completely new sort of wide area context that we didn't have up until now. it provides us with the potential for a better understanding of the world. So more information, more data. So what do we do with that data? And I think I see that there are going to be sort of two stages. And we touched on that yesterday around what is it that we can do with this additional information. We can do what we do today, but we can do it better. And that's what I see as sort of the first stage. But then there's also the potential to innovate with new services, and how do we use that information that's become available to do something really new rather than trying to do what we're doing today just a little bit better. The other aspect here is around the IoT ecosystem. It enables a shift from what for Vodafone was traditional B2C telephony model to a more complex model that also includes B2B, B2B2C. So multiple players are going to be involved in the delivery of this, and we can see that the business outcomes have the potential to really scale and really change the way things are done. So here there's a little bit about the data, and I'll go back to that because I think this is quite relevant with regards to security. So how is that data used? And again, there's sort of a spectrum there where we can start to look at how we can use the data. Is it descriptive analytics, or do we start to do some predictive analysis? And again, the potential there is endless, but there's also a big concern, I would say, around how that data gets used and whether the right mechanisms are in place to protect the data and the right regulations are in place to ensure that everything is used as it should be and that we're aware of how that happens. So here, we're still in early adoption stage, and we are promising to make lives easier and more efficient. But what actually needs to happen to be able to facilitate adoption? So as we said, having just the technology available, it's not enough. We're confident that the technology is going to do what it says, but how do we facilitate adoption? And in my mind, it's all about integration, harmonization, and interconnection. And it's tackling the complexity and enabling easy creation of new services. So here I've looked at sort of three main areas that I see as being sort of the main entry barriers, and also the ones where I see that there's a potential for collaboration within the industry to help resolve them, because I really believe that before we can start to compete, we need to collaborate to make this a reality. So the first is around cost, and as we said, there's a big change in the business models. There's a big change required to the way that we traditionally do things, and change is never easy. And I think in this case in particular, it's painful because we have something that's worked well for so long, and it's very difficult to say, well, actually, we need to take this thing that's worked really well, and we need to change the dynamics around it. So one of the major contributions to that the critical aspects around the business case are around device costs. And I think it's only part of the picture, but of course there are applications where if you don't get the device cost down, effectively you're reducing your addressable market. And we can see that it's sort of a directly proportional device cost and addressable market. So that's sort of one of the first hurdles. The others are around services and operation of the networks. So again, we need to find a way to ensure that we have a viability between the cost of managing the network, managing the devices, managing the connectivity, and the application that it goes to serve. So when we're connecting a car, we have a certain situation. When you want to connect running shoes, it's different. And we need to recognize that there needs to be a real shift in how we go about doing that. So the total cost of ownership of the end-to-end solution is really key here. And for the customer, we need to be looking at how they get access to the service, how much the service is going to cost them during the lifetime, and how we can make sure that we minimize those costs and at the same time delivering the service that they need. And here I think one of my directors recently went to the CES in Vegas, and he was telling a story about how everything is now connected, but cellular actually doesn't feature very much. And the perception is that cellular is slow, expensive, clunky, and we need to change that. As an industry, we need to change that, because I believe we have a huge potential to leverage a lot of the good things that have been done in the past few years, but at the same time we need to change the things that don't fit. So this is something that it's about making sure that we leverage the good and change the bad effectively. Complexity, again, this is similar discussion. It needs to be easy. So if we want to connect billions of devices, we can't make it difficult. It's about ease of use. And this is around interoperability. So global industry standards, it's about harmonization of standards and having something that's easy. It's developer friendly, it's efficient, it's flexible, something that's easy to adopt, easy to develop, and that's easy to integrate. And there's a lot that's been done in sort of recent months within 3GPP standards. We're now looking at some of the other standardization bodies that are doing something similar on the application level. And these are the things that will effectively, if we manage to get to a point where things are harmonized and things are easy and things are interoperable, that is going to be a key enabler for the sort of widespread adoption of the technology. Security, I mean, that we've discussed that at length, and to me, this is one of the fundamental aspects that really need to be used as a differentiator compared to proprietary technologies. But it's also something that we need to constantly question, because with the Internet of Things, I see the potential for a lot of information that we didn't have before, a lot of information that it's identifiable. So if I take some data that is related to a heart monitor, if I take the data on its own, that's fine. It's a heart monitor, I can see a heartbeat. If I start to see that in relation to a specific device and a specific person, that becomes a lot more sensitive. And when you start to correlate all of the data to a single person, you realize that there's a lot of privacy issues could emerge that we don't have today. And that's where I see that we need to have we need to tackle the governance, privacy, and security aspects, and we need to do that on not just on local level, but at a global level, because this is something that is global. So we're talking about the use cases for LPWA, and we're doing an exercise around the analysis of the performance of the different technologies. So these are some of the more obvious use cases, and these are probably the ones that will be prioritized and that everybody is going to be looking at to begin with. But as I said, we're seeing a lot of different things that are emerging sort of on a daily basis. And recently there was a presentation at the IoT Forum Summit around a use case which was a non-profit organization, and this was a trial that was done with Ericsson on monitoring the quality of water in the mountains in some remote location in the United States. And basically they were saying that it saved them money, saved them resources. They had a much better quality of service because they were able to do a lot of things remotely that otherwise they would have had to sort of climb into a truck, go and collect water, come back down, do the analysis. And some of these things are just really you couldn't make them up. And I think it will be the customers and the verticals that will be coming to us with how NB-IoT or how LPWA can solve their problems. Oh, so here I wanted to share some of the. We've recently been doing a lot of activity within the GSMA and within the NB-IoT Forum. And we've had some very, very good feedback from some of our customers and partners. And this is sort of showing the benefits, and this is specific to NB-IoT in this case, but showing the benefits from the point of view of, in this case, Camstrup, which is a meter vendor. This is BinNet, which and they do work around trash and collection and things like that. So we've had some very interesting presentations on how they see the use of LPWA and NB-IoT to help their business and to do things that they weren't able to do previously. And this is around water consumption. So again, this is related to a trial that Vodafone did last year, and this is with an early version of NB-IoT, a pre-standards version of NB-IoT. So here, I wanted to show you a quick video, which is related to the Aguas de Valencia use case.
The Aguas de Valencia group manages 1,100,000 meters, including more than 600,000 automated meter reading devices. Communication is essential, and technology allows us to read meters 24 times a day. Until now, meter reading technology has been proprietary and required the installation of our own infrastructure. The goal is to have a communications technology that allows us to implement the meter reading solutions without having to install our own communications infrastructure. We knew that Vodafone was developing narrowband IoT technology. It was a good match with our work methodology, and this fact led us to agree to a trial to define an operating model for the future. The most important aspect for the trial was to identify locations where it's harder for a signal to reach, such as meter rooms in basements with little or no coverage, meter boxes below ground, and recessed niches with metal covers that block the signal. We found locations with all these issues in the village of Moncada, so we decided to perform the trial there. So far, the results have been very promising, as the signal has been able to reach its destination without any issues in all of the locations tested. If narrowband IoT becomes a standard, we'll be able to outsource communications to a telecom carrier that guarantees data quality and security. Meter manufacturers will be able to integrate the solution in their devices. The useful life of a meter is about 10 years, aligned with battery life that this technology will be able to provide. Narrowband IoT will allow us to perform large-scale rollouts very easily and to implement it for water supplies both nationally and internationally.
So this is a trial that we performed recently, and we are now in the process. So 2016, from a Vodafone NB-IoT strategy point of view, it's all about trials. So we will be evolving this particular trial to standard. We'll be working with a number of different vendors and partners for a number of different trials in other locations. We'll be working on interoperability, which again is a key aspect that we need to sort of look at because of the maturity of the technology. But we plan to take this to market in 2017. And this is hugely ambitious because I'm sort of thinking, I think it was this morning when we were discussing about the long cycles of the past. I was previously involved in testing, and I remember the days in which a release was tested for a whole year before it was actually put into the network. And now we're talking about effectively putting something that is not even yet standardized, and we're looking at having it commercial in 9 months' time. And obviously the impact here is not just on the network, but it's also on the chipsets, on the modules, on the devices. And it's also on the whole sort of machine-to-machine product. So from our side, from Vodafone's side, the product development aspect that goes into it with all of the IT, the supporting systems, all of that needs to be updated to be able to meet the requirements of the new technology. So we've got a busy few months ahead in preparing to go commercial, and we plan to go commercial effectively in less than a year's time. So here, the NB-IoT Forum, this is a forum that was initiated in November last year, and it's run within the GSMA Mobile IoT Connected Living program. And it's been a catalyst for a number of initiatives around bringing the technology to market. So it's around how we ensure that we get the devices that we need, how we ensure that we get the performance that we need, the certification and testing, how do we accelerate all of these things that would probably happen anyway, but they would take a lot longer, and we actually want them to happen very quickly because we've got a huge demand for getting this technology out there. So this is about application innovation, it's about device integration, and it's about business model research, compliance certification. And this is working across the whole industry. So at the moment, I believe the latest count, there were 22 operators and I believe 18 partners that were involved in this particular initiative. And this is it's about developing the ecosystem. Last month, Vodafone opened the first global NB-IoT Open Labs, and this is another initiative which is being run within the NB-IoT Forum. And we are looking at creating a federation of open labs around the world that cater to multiple MNOs, multiple vendors, and above all to customers and partners. And the open labs will they'll reduce the cost and time to market to get devices on board. They'll also offer certification support. So we aim to open a series of labs, and this is, as I said, it's not just a Vodafone initiative. We've opened the first one. There's a lot more work to be done, so we want to make it multi-vendor. We want to make it interoperable. We're looking at how we can interconnect between, potentially also between different labs around the world. But it's to facilitate time to market. It's to accelerate time to market. So we want to make the technology accessible, and we want to make it accessible quickly. So what do we see as the keys to success? Global connectivity, and I think we're in a good place on that one. Affordability, time to market, and ease of use. So how is LPWA going to transform the Internet of Things? It's by providing all of these elements. And adding that to the capabilities that we have today, we believe that we've got a very, very good story to enable that transformation. That's it from me.
Perhaps we could have one question. Is there a question? Yeah, then we have Lory have a question there, and
thanks. A very good overview, and certainly support the targets in there. How do you? What are you doing to kind of really reduce the complexity in the out-of-the-box experience? Let's say there's a small company that needs power, not power, but pressure sensors in their own operations plant or whatever, and they order 50 of those, and they come in a box. So how do they get connected and working actually? What are you doing for that?
So yes, so that is, I guess you're referring to the sort of the things like onboarding processes, and so we have a big challenge there, and I didn't go too much into that detail, but it's really it's one of the things that we need to address, because as an MNO, we're used to dealing with a different type of connectivity, and reducing the costs and reducing the complexity. It's about introducing a whole new level of self-service, of automation, that we didn't have up until now. So that is one of the big challenges that we have, to be able to make it more accessible. And I think the work that's been done by some of the proprietary technologies, we can learn from that. So it's I'm not saying it's a problem that's been solved, but it is something that we are sort of addressing, and it will take time, but we will get there.
So I think we need to hold the questions, further questions for the panel. So thank you very much.